Let's start this video out with my typical example. Object O gets 5. Let me draw the stack and the heap. Alright, here's the... Wow, that didn't work out very well, did it? Whatever. Stack, heap, and O is on the stack, on this tilted stack. It's a 4-byte reference out to the heap. And here's my boxed object filled up with a bunch of meta information I'm not really telling you about. And then here's the boxed value 5. Well, this video is actually going to be about what is this extra information out here. Well, if you've watched the threading videos, which chances are you haven't, so I won't assume you have, since the threading videos are a little bit further down in my playlist priority. But objects instances out on the heap have 2 extra data members. Let me just try to further illustrate this. There is the sync block index. Sync block index. What in tarnation is that? Don't worry about it. We'll look at it when you get to threading. And then there's the type object pointer. Alright, well, what is the type object pointer? When you look at the reflection video playlist, that will make more sense. It's kind of difficult because for me as a lecturer, teacher, whatever, that there's all these concepts and they're intertwined, and so where do you start and how do you move forward? Well, you can't really... I mean, some topics depend on other topics and such and so on and so forth. So don't stress it, but I did want to point out that there's this sync block index, which all objects out on the heap have. It's actually unfortunate that the .NET people did it this way. Then there's the type reference, which essentially tells us the type of the object that's inside the box. For example, and that's a very high-level description I've given you. It's a type reference. It tells us what type's in the box. But that's essentially what happens. If I say O.getType, okay, the getType function, if you look, Control-KI to bring up this menu, it returns a type instance. So I can say type T gets O.getType. And then I can say, hey, T dot, what's your name? What's your full name? What's your assembly stuff? Are you in a namespace? That sort of thing. There's a whole bunch of information we can get here, but I'm not going to go into that until we get into the reflection videos. But let me just start out here. Let me just ask it, hey, what's your name? Okay, let me console write line t.name, like so. And what is, let me see, console write line t dot namespace. What namespace are you in? Now we know that t is an int 32. Right? Well, a literal here, this int literal is, the compiler interprets that as an int. If you remember int, but then int, the compiler translates that to system.int32. Anyway, let me control F5. Let's run this. Look at the output. Here you go. int32 is the name. The name here is int32. Then the namespace is system. So very good. Anyway, that information is stored in this type object. And the only way to get that type information is if I have the object out on the heap. That's just how type references work. Again, the reflection videos. But I can actually prove this. This is pretty interesting. Watch this. If I say, let me do 5.toString, like so, and 5.getType, like that. Control-Shift-S. Let me bring up the command prompt again. Compile this. I want to look at that intermediate language, the missile, and here's main class main. And you can look here. Here, these instructions. How am I going to best do this? Let me get this out of my face. This 5.toString right here has to do with all the way down to here. So if you look here, you cannot see a box operation in here. I know a lot of this might look like gibberish to you, but you can't see a box operation in there. All right, but then this getType, where I say getType, well, look at this right here. Okay, in order to call getType, I first have to box it. All right, why? Because of the way the reflection works, an object instance has to have a reference to the type object for that object. Say that 10 times. Anyway, I just want to prove to you that, hey, in order for me to get the type, I have to have that type reference in there. And the only way to get the type reference is to box the object, throw it out on the heap. So, little kind of got you there. But there you go. Now when I draw the stack and the heap, and then I put a boxed object out here, which in this case, this will get boxed, right? Instead of me saying meta information and just leaving it at that, you can know that the 2 bits of information in there are the sync block index, which has to do with threading, and is much more involved than I want to try to explain in this video, but I do get into it in the threading videos. And then there's also the type reference, which allows us to call get type and get that type reference back and be able to query and say, hey, what's your name? What's your namespace? All that sort of thing. So there you go. I am no longer trying to be deceitful there.